Hi, I'm Lisa Loftman, and I'm a counselor with the MSU Employee Assistance Program and also an emotional wellness consultant for the Health for You program here at Michigan State University. I'm the facilitator of the Sustainable High Performance class that's been happening, and previously the Breaking Free from Stress class. So some of you may have met me in that capacity. Tonight I'll be sharing a few ideas that come from those courses, but mostly I just want to be here in service to you. I have talked with a few of you who are struggling with how to be externally facing MSU employees at this very difficult time in our history. And my heart is with all of you as you try to find your center and do good work on behalf of the institution. And the other reason I'm here is that Vivian Robinson had been hearing of concerns with people and really wanted to have a support session for you all. The original intent was to do a live webinar tomorrow at 10 o'clock, but I need to be working with a different group of people, and so we couldn't work that out. So we decided that I would record a webinar and to try to have some conversation and offer some ideas. And then if people were interested in a follow-up question and answer webinar or a chance just to talk together, that we would try to arrange that in a week or so. So one of the questions I want you wondering about is that something that you would be into? And if so, I want you to let somebody in the chain of command know or let Vivian know directly that you'd be interested in such a thing. My thoughts tonight are that we want to just talk about you know, what the webinar is intended for. So I'd like to provide some practical support to you as external facing MSU employees. To do that, I'd like to sort of contextualize what emotions you might be experiencing and what stress reactions you might be having. The reason that's helpful is because often when we're having big emotions in an acute stress moment and having reactions, we kind of think it's just us. And we can start thinking something's wrong with us when really it's kind of a normal experience that we're having. So I want to talk about that a minute, and then also provide some self-care strategies related to what you might be feeling or experiencing. And then I'm just going to offer some resiliency skill building ideas, just designed for you to go into the weekend and just be wondering about them, maybe revisit them. These are just ideas that are helpful for people to know regardless of what's going on. And then I also just want to make sure you're aware that I personally help you be aware that you have, as part of your employment benefit here, access to free short-term confidential counseling. You have 1 to 6 sessions per event. So like if you needed to talk about the current stressful environment, you could have up to 6 sessions with a helper. And we do those on Zoom, and we do those by phone, and we do those in person. So if that's something that you're interested in, you just need to go to the eap.msu.edu website and click on how to connect for a session. Also, as part of your part of your employment benefit, you have really decent insurance related to mental health, and we're just really encouraging people to use the resources that they have. Some of you might be having the kind of experience that just needs individual tending to, working through all the work-life balance issues that you might have with maybe work tipped a little out of proportion right now, maybe even more than it normally is. And so whether you find a provider in your home community or you work with us to try to help you find a provider, claiming some space and using your benefits to protect your emotional and physical health is a really good idea. So there's some classes that you could take that could support your health and well-being, and then there's some services you can access. There'll be some slides at the end that speak to that. So here we go. I just want to say that there's no way I'm going to say everything that needs to be said. One of the resiliency skills that I really appreciate is understanding that there's always unfinished conversations. And this is, I think, helpful for those of you having conversations with people who are currently very upset with the institution, that they might not always be upset with the institution. And we want to stay engaged over time with people and have a conversation and then reflect on it. If it throws us off balance, get centered, come back and circle back around and have another conversation. In the same way that this won't be the only time I'm available to you, we're going to agree that this is also an unfinished conversation. One of the things I want you to just notice is like, where are you right now? Like you might be sitting in a chair looking at the screen, intending to watch this webinar, but you might have other stuff open on your desk. You might be writing and organizing your papers. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like doing webinars, because I sometimes feel like people do webinars in a different mindset. So I just want to ask you to like be here now with me. Like set down your thing. I see you out there. You know, set down your things. Just bring your attention to the sound of my voice, to the things that we're going to be talking about, and just let yourself be, for this moment, in receiving mode. You're the person that's deserving of this care and attention, and I would like for you to just let this time be about your own healing and your own centering, and to not be trying to put your attention on 100 million things. Just bring it to me and let yourself receive this as the gift that it's intended to be. So when you notice throughout my conversation that your mind is drifting, I'd like you to just be kind, simply begin again, come back to me, because the next thing you hear might be really helpful. So that's a skill. One of the things I just feel like it's really important to say is that nobody's having nobody's having the same experience as anybody else. As I travel around campus and as people come to see us, we're really getting that that your experience of this institutional crisis and I would say failure is unique. There are many reasons why that's true. And I mean, I could probably have listed even more, but some of the ones that are really important is that for people who have a sexual abuse or sexual assault history, this could be resonating differently than someone who doesn't. It may be resonating very differently for women than it might be for men. If you know people involved, not just the people and the survivors, but people in the department or people in the institution who are impacted by all of this, you're going to have a different experience than someone who works in a department that's kind of removed from it. People have different life experiences, therefore they have different triggers. Also, we all occupy different identity groups. And so if you're in just one targeted group, meaning that you aren't in the dominant power group, so it would be women or person of color, LGBT person, then you might be experiencing the campus environment differently. Also different temperament types, different work styles, different ways we process emotions. We don't do it all the same way. So one coworker could be processing very different than another coworker. Also different loyalty to the institution. Some people have been here for 40 years and they bleed green. And some people have been here for 40 years and they don't bleed green. And some people just got here like a heartbeat ago and aren't really part of the culture yet. And all of that's going to depend on how triggered you are by everything that's going on. Different experiences with different units and departments. I'm going to be honest that there are some units and departments that are less healthy than other units and departments. And if you've been involved in a unit or department where people aren't treated well and they're not provided a very good Spartan experience, it's hard to give a Spartan experience if you haven't gotten a good Spartan experience. And so you might experience this differently. You might be some of the people that know that this moment of our cultural crisis isn't just about one evil man doing harm to people. It's bigger, and there's some things we have to crack open in order to like find our way in a healthier way. And some of you are probably more aware of that than others. Given the job I have, I'm super aware of that pattern. And then you might have different levels of job security issues going on. You might be the only breadwinner for a family of 4, and your job is closer to the epicenter, and so something could happen. Or you might be thinking, with all the investigations, how do we know that positions aren't going to be cut? Truth of the matter is we don't, and the unknown of that impacts people differently, depending on whether or not they have another income in the house or 100 other factors. And finally, like, you have other stresses going on in your life right now. So somebody that's dealing with this at the same time they just lost a parent, or they have a teenager that's dealing with some addiction issues, or their relationship is not stable, those things are also adding to what the bathtub theory of stress is. It's like it kind of starts going up and your bathtub is really close to overflowing, and then something drops in there and it causes a splash. And working in an institution with the kind of national and international attention that we're having is definitely a splash. So just wanted you to know, like, we're all having a unique experience, as are every single donor that you're talking to has a unique experience for some of the very same reasons. They may not be loyal to MSU, but they may have a sexual assault history. Or they may not have their own sexual assault history, but they have a kid leaving for school next year and are concerned about rape cultures on campus across the country. They may be people already triggered by the national political climate, or maybe not so much. So what the point of this is that there's no right way to be feeling or experiencing this situation. What works and helps one person is really different than what will work with and help another person. What's important about that is that we allow for unique experiences. Sometimes when work teams have a crisis, people get judgmental that people are handling it the way that they're handling it. But what we know is some grievers are emotional, feeling-oriented grievers, and some grievers are very practical, task-oriented grievers. And usually any work team has people from both of those groups. But what we're wanting to do when we meet somebody is we want to relate to each other and have a little bit of a shared experience, but we also want to understand that we're having a unique experience. So I would want you to engage with that, to be just listening for understanding, not to agree. You want to listen to understand, not to fit it into your value structure. And in that, we just want to provide empathy, which I'm going to talk about more in a minute. We're just going to recognize what someone's feeling and kind of care about it, demonstrate actual care about it. That builds connection, and that allows people to feel heard. People can move through an emotional experience if it feels tended to. And then that's one of the roles that you're in. I know some of the personality styles that some of you have, you're probably like cape-wearing superheroes, and you like to fix, promise, customer service, take care of it. But this is something, the energy that people have in many of these unique experiences, that we can't rush. We need to just sit in it. So we shouldn't minimize what people are feeling or rush or fix, certainly not promise anything, because we don't really control how this is all going to unfold. And there's no need to rescue somebody from the feelings that they're having. It's better just to care that they're having them and to be kind of in it with them. I will take a minute right now and say that in our work around campus, we're finding that in some of the places of points of contact where MSU employees are dealing with the public, a lot of people feel like the employee feels like they're a lightning rod for just massive amounts of anger and upset. It's important to know that people are in kind of different categories with this too. Some of the people are maybe triggered and they're having trauma and they're talking about their pain. They need listening to and empathy and care, and no denials and no defensiveness. Just tell me your story. I want to care about it. Let me see what I can pass on to people. Another group of people are people who are angry at the institution. Maybe they work in the institution or they're connected to the institution and they feel let down and betrayed and they're angry. They just need to vent, and that venting is within a range of normal. Again, we want to listen to, care about it, acknowledge it, honor it, and then try to shift to the business at hand. There's another group of people who are angry but also abusive in nature. And they're calling and they're being super personal and they're viciously attacking and they're making it about the person on the other end of the phone, threatening, causing trauma, which doesn't make sense if you're upset with an institution that they didn't take care of women and allowed violence to happen to women, and you're expressing that and in bringing violence to the predominantly female group of people answering the phone. Doesn't really make any sense. But dysregulated people don't make sense. Dysregulated people emotionally are like drunk people. They often don't make sense. But what we figured out is the script we were giving people and the talking points, they work in those first groups: the empathy, the listening, the understanding, the apologizing, the caring, the holding. But in this other group of people, you just need boundaries. And you just need to be able to say, if you continue to talk with me like that, I'm not going to be able to stay on the phone. I know that there's some customer service and donor issues related to that, but I'm also talking about what happened to me recently when I was wearing some Michigan State apparel out and about in the world and was a lightning rod for someone who didn't know me, had nothing to do. You work there? How can you work there? It's like, because I have, kids to feed or at least pay for their college. I don't have the liberty to just not work here because this is going on here. So you're allowed to have boundaries is what I'm saying about it. Unique experiences also require unique responses. So we can't cookie cutter our response to any of this because my response out is kind of dependent on what's coming in, and those are going to be unique. I'm going to let people know what they're feeling in those other groups, acknowledge and honor their experience. That's important. So with empathy, I just want to say the first element of empathy. So first I want to say about empathy is you can't have empathy all the time. We would have empathy overload really quickly. I don't have empathy all day long. What I like to think about with empathy is it's a state of service. So I step into an empathic moment and I tend to somebody, and then I step out and either take care of myself or do some, cognitive business or whatever I need to do. And then I might step back in again and have another empathy moment with a different person. So how you have an empathy moment is the first thing is you have to want to be of assistance. It is a state of service. And the first thing you do as you enter that state of service is you have to let your judgment go. Your agenda, your values, your beliefs, your things that, your pet peeves, things that get you going. You want to actually try to set those on the table over here. And just be with people in a more open field. Then the people are talking to you, you want to try to understand and take the perspective of the person. You kind of want to look through their lenses and try to see it like a person with their identity groups, affiliations, their differences, the kind of how they're experiencing it. You're not trying to get them to have your experience. You're trying to see what theirs might be like. In the process, you're just looking to try to name and identify, not out loud. You're not like, oh, you're feeling angry. Oh, I see that sadness. No, it's more like just in your mind, you're saying, this person is sad, they're overwhelmed, they're feeling a lot of pain because they have their own experience, or this person's really angry and feels betrayed and isn't sure, they're confused and they're upset and they're having a hard time. They're having a hard time. They're people having a hard time. Humans have hard times. And so where we go wrong with empathy is we think when we're listening that we have to memorize the content. In fact, that's in my training way back when, that's what I was taught. I had to reflect all the content and the feelings. This is an easier way to do empathy, and it's actually more meaningful, is you just identify what people are feeling, and then it's not about the content, it's about the emotions. People need connection. They need to feel like their feelings are heard, seen, validated, believed, honored. So you're just demonstrating care. So a lot of times in my past, I would maybe not go to a funeral because I didn't know what to say, or somebody would be having a hard situation and I wouldn't know what to say about the situation, or the situation was awkward, or maybe there was some shame connected to it. Now I would go to that thing, at whatever it is, and I might say to the person even, wow, listen, I don't even know what to say, but I want you to know I'm here with you and you matter to me and I care. That's the kind of empathy that's important. And that's important for humanity, and empathy helps us let go of shame. It helps us be understood. It helps us build trust. It helps us have intimacy and connection among people. It also helps us have a space where we can have common connection, commonality across differences. And then from a more financial perspective, empathy helps people feel connected. It builds relationships, and they're more likely to do business with you. And while you know that, I think the risk here for you all would be to be uncomfortable with the emotions and how it's not shiny Spartan story, and try to skip this part and go to this other part, and you could damage the relationship. So you need to slow down and think empathy first, and then see where that takes you. A lot of times people don't, some managers will say, oh, I don't have time for that touchy-feely crap. And what I would say is, it's so beneficial for people to feel heard and connected that you kind of don't have time to not do it. Because when you give people that, a lot of times it doesn't even take very long, but then they're more connected and they're more wanting to work with you. You're more trusted, so the rest of everything you do goes better. Again, we don't have time not to do that. So I just want you to take this in for a minute. This is why I'm saying we can't rush and avoid the empathy part. This is a word cloud based on a conversation that was held a week or so ago with about 100 MSU, mostly staff, but a couple faculty and some graduate students, actually from across the state of Michigan, because we had some MSU Extension folks with us. And this is the word cloud. These are the most commonly noted feelings. I would tell you that the ones that are bigger were feelings that were actually at all 13 tables. And so there were 13 tables of 8 people, and this is what that room was feeling. Now, true enough that if we asked them what they were feeling today, the same 100 people, the word cloud would undoubtedly look different. That's in part because emotions are temporary, and they come and they go. But this is a piece of what people are experiencing about our institution. You know that just from what you're running into a wall of this. And we cannot go forward without kind of moving through this. And I just wanted to show it to you because you might be feeling it too. And then the people that you're with are also feeling it. And it just has to be tended to. And we're in American culture, Western culture, we have this idea that strong means that I don't have to feel emotions. Like I get, men get points if they go through a hard thing and not have a show. And it's not healthy for men to have that kind of, that's what strong means. I mean, I actually had a man apologize to me for crying when he lost his son, just a couple days prior. And I said to him, "Oh, excuse me, sir, on behalf of our entire culture, let me apologize to you for you thinking that you have to apologize for crying when you just lost your son." People who don't do their emotions do them. And stuck and held emotions come out in a variety of unhelpful ways. Passive-aggressively, aggressively, sideways, or if we stockpile it and they stay inside and they just wreak havoc on our physical body. It's like having your car parked and your foot on the gas. If you're angry, stuffing it. I'm learning that if I don't try to stuff it with food and I just go and move and release it, I can acknowledge I'm angry, and I'm a woman and I'm angry, and we're not supposed to do that. Men aren't supposed to release feelings. Women aren't supposed to release feelings. What I would like you to see is that humans have a full range of feelings, and people should be able to feel the full range regardless of their gender. And that strong, the old strong, I'm not going to show it strong, it wasn't good for men. It leads to increased suicide rate for men. It leads to homicide. It leads to addiction. It leads to domestic violence. It leads to marital distress. It leads to child abuse. It leads to bad parenting. It leads to upset. It leads to road rage. None of it's helpful. If we were all better at navigating our emotions, all of those things would get markedly better. And what we don't need is women aspiring to be strong like men and getting like man voice, vicariously in order to try to not feel feeling. So I was talking with an employee who had a very bad accident. She was first gone back to work after the accident and was just kicking it. And she was like, "Oh, I don't need counseling. I don't need to talk about this. I'm good. I'm fine." And then she started like having anxiety and then not being able to panic and then not being able to drive highways and then not being able to drive surface streets and then not being able to get the car at all, or like started getting more and more narrow. And I talked with her about needing a new kind of strong. Like, what if strong was defined as, I accept that difficult emotions are a natural part of every human life. I don't judge myself for having difficult emotions, including the physiological expression of those difficult emotions like crying. So I'm not going to shame myself when I cry. Let's have a difficult emotion like loss, and then let's shame ourselves for crying. So now we have loss and shame. It's just not helpful. And being able to process your loss in a beautiful way is the opposite of weak. It's actually very strong to be able to have the full range of emotions. So if there's no emotion I'm afraid to have, no emotion I'm unwilling to process, if I know how to make space for my emotions, meaning I don't stuff them and ignore them and hold them off, but I also don't get swept away in them and act out of them in ways that aren't under my values, if I can kind of have a mindful witnessing experience of my anger, it informs. It can tell me things I need to know. Fear can tell me when there's danger. Anxiety can tell me when something's not okay with me. Anger can tell me when a boundary's been violated. They're all useful emotions. Why would we hurt? When we feel hurt, it's a message to us about something mattering. And so if we don't let ourselves feel hurt, we don't get clear about what matters, and then we don't line up with that in a way that can make our marriage better. Another piece of it is like, if I know how to process my emotions and I hold myself accountable for doing that, other people don't have to be fearful of being like difficult emotions. There's a lot of people on campus who are afraid of the emotions of the managers because their managers don't do emotions very well. They either avoid an emotion by like not letting anybody take a risk, which would avoid failure, or they avoid vulnerability and they keep themselves really rigid and tight. There's a definite connection between emotional rigidity or avoidance and psychological rigidity, micromanaging, control, difficulty in the workplace or otherwise. So this is a resiliency skill that comes from social justice education. Dominant culture tells us that we should be either or. Something's either good or bad. Like, just to simplify it, it's either good or bad, right or wrong, yes or no. And things are layered and complicated. And so, like, for example, your feelings about Michigan State University right now are probably layered and complicated. I know mine are. And I know that my anger and upset about people being harmed, both survivors and employees, and indirectly against students not being cared for. My feelings about that sit right next side of my incredible pride in the, I've dealt with my own difficult chapters of my own MSU work history. And one of the reasons I'm still here and I stay here is because I feel super proud and committed to the incredible workforce. Like the men and women who work here, their heart, what they're trying to do, how they show up every day, their bravery. So I have awe and shame right now. And we want to make space for that. And I think in your role, if you have space for that, we can talk about both. If you're not having to do either or, you're talking about the shiny, so we can't talk about the bad stuff, just try to fast forward through it. Or if we're talking about the bad stuff, or feel so bad about the bad stuff, we don't even want to make a call on behalf of Michigan State. That's not going to help you get your metrics, right? So we want to actually bring them together and be able to say to each other, yeah, me too, I'm having this. And I also want to remind myself of these things. I still feel good talking to you about asking for your support because I believe this is the predominant value-guided place of Michigan State, and I'm hearing that people are committed to taking care of students. So you want to practice both and thinking, both with your customer service and your work, and also in your own emotional experience. Because what happens is if we have it in an either or, people aren't willing to let go of their shame, anger, and disgust because it makes them feel like they're not going to care about what's happening. And I'm here to tell you, you can like let that go and get connected to your wisdom and your calm and your clarity, and then take effective action from there. Letting go of it isn't a sign of betrayal to the cause. It's sort of saying, I'm acknowledging that, and now I'm falling into a creative place that's going to help you move forward. And that's like my world, is teaching people how to be resilient in response to hard things. You got to acknowledge it, honor it, then release the emotions of that so you can relax into your deepest, wisest self, reflect on what matters most, your values, and then bring it. We got to bring it. We got to bring it in a beautiful way. I'm bringing it to you right now. What you're feeling. We get off track with that sometimes because our branding has sort of set us up to be super shiny all the time. So it ends up like you're either this uncommonly awesome, breathtaking outcomes, rapid transformation, or you're a slacker. You're either doing this or you're a failure. You're either doing this or you're not very well. I know that's not what the branding was about when they started it. It's more about motivation and inspiration and reaching new heights and being courageous. And there's some really great elements to that. But if in your mind you have it in either or if your supervisor or director or vice president or president has it in either or, then it's really going to feel more like performance. And then it's startling and shame-inducing, and then it kicks people up where their thinking isn't good, and then they lose their confidence, and then they start doubting themselves, and then their sales drop, their affiliations drop, their willingness to come, they start dreading coming to work, So it can have an unintended backfiring consequence if you take this as a statement of your personhood. I want to relax, be connected to my best self, figure out how I want to bring my best energy to campus every day. I want to take care of myself in the process. I want to live at the intersection of healthy and high performing. There's a balance point to that. And when I talk to myself like, why aren't you doing this, or you should be doing, it actually doesn't help me do my best work. Don't believe a word I say. Look forward in your own experience to see if what I'm saying might be true. When people are reacting in that startled, shaming themselves kind of way, this is kind of how people feel. And it's not just Michigan State. This is the way a lot of people feel across the country. 72% on this bottom measure here, 72% of the American workforce is disengaged. They're in the chair, but not really there. They're not thriving. They're not feeling like they're really bringing their best energy. Of that group, 18% of that 72% are disgruntled, and they want to cause harm. It's disgruntled people that are involved in mass shootings. It's disgruntled people that try to set up another unit for failure. None of this is helpful to our own physical health, and it's not helpful to getting the job done in a beautiful way. But you may be experiencing this, and one of the messages I have for you right now, just for you, that if you're overwhelmed with these experiences, you may want to have some individual tending to, and be able to talk this through. This is not, it has become normalized in our culture, but it's not healthy human place to manage home, place to stand in your life. I used to feel very much like this, and I got some good care, and I learned some new skills, and now I don't hang out there. I don't talk to myself in ways that would make sure I have to hang out there. You, is the way you talk to yourself likely to lead you to feeling this way? So I got some individual tending to, some high quality therapy, which I have insurance to cover. And then I also did some skill building and learned some things to help me like counteract some cultural messages that aren't helpful to any of us. And that's the shame resilience piece here, and then some acceptance commitment theory that helps the pressure, the overwhelm, and the criticism, all of that sort of settle down. We have lots of classes and opportunities for you to learn how to not have this. If you're having this mindset, there's a set of skills you can learn to help yourself have that mindset. I'd be interested in talking with you all more about. At that same event last week, we were talking with people about what they were experiencing, what their stress reactions were. So they just listed them, and then when I pulled up these lists that are, these are the emotional symptoms of stress. Just take a look at those for a minute. Right? Do you resemble that lately? Are you feeling that? If so, you're right in the middle of normal. This is the mental stuff. I left the training today, I left my laptop there, I had to go back and get it. Last week, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, when the trials and stuff were going on, I came home at night, it was late, I've been working extra, things going on, how can we help, what can we do, I pulled up from my house, I got out, I went inside, intending to go work out, because I was going to try to release some energy. Got too tired, didn't go, didn't move my car, and I know full good and well that if I leave my car on the street in East Lansing, I'm going to get a $35 ticket, and I did. Now, my response to that was to be like, shoot, that's a bummer, I hate that, and you can see why, because these things are happening. And I am also experiencing stress, even though helping people tend to be stressed, but they're experiencing loss of humor, irregular sleep patterns, the shutting down, the tuning out, eating when you're not hungry, not actually being mindful and noticing whether you're getting what you need or too much. Procrastination, binge watching Netflix, fighting with people you love. If you're experiencing any of that, you're within the range of normal. If people you're talking to are, they are too. And what we want to do is try to help that settle down some. Like have it come back online. There's going to be times when it just feels really big and overwhelming. You're startled. You're like, and I always say it would be helpful if we had like this warning message happen. Your circumstances are temporarily overwhelming your capacity. Your logic center is currently offline. Higher level brain function is not possible at this time. Please consult your owner manual for further instruction. Now, a little humor with that, but the most important word on this slide is the word temporary, because when you're feeling overwhelmed and you can't cope, you want to just try to remind yourself that's a temporary thing. And you want to notice in your body how it shows up. That is the warning light. It's like when you're gritting your teeth and you've got a tension headache, your shoulders are up there by your ears, your stomach's in the air. You want to notice that you're holding it in a clenched way, and you want to try to help that relax back out, trusting that you won't always feel this way. And this is important, that your logic center is currently offline. So any more doing when you're already there isn't going to help. So if you're having that kind of moment, the most important thing to do is rest and bring your attention right to the present moment, that be here now. One of the ways I might suggest that you do that is take a deep breath like I just did. And when I did, I became very aware of what's happening outside the window here, which is traffic's passing. And I'm going to take a deep breath and hold it for about 4 counts, and then I'm going to exhale. Then I'm going to inhale again. And hold it. And this time when I exhale, I want to listen with my hearing to all the sounds I can hear. The clock. I hear buzzing on the computer. I hear traffic passing. I hear traffic coming and then fading. I hear sounds that are close and sounds that are later. Hearing more traffic now. The red light turned and traffic is flowing. But I'd love for you to just pause the video for a minute and do that. Take a deep breath, hold it for 4 counts, and when you release it, bring all of your attention to what you can hear. I joke on campus here, one of my slogans is, there's always a moped, because I work on Circle Drive. If I'm walking in between a meeting and I notice that I'm just really like, what's this meeting going to be like? How's it going to go? What's going to be? Maybe I'm up to my ego, or maybe it's just busy, it's just blah, 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 blah. If I notice that, happened yesterday, I just noticed that it was sunny out, so I just stopped, and I just took a deep breath, and then I felt the sun, and when I listened, I could hear snow melting. And when I inhaled, I held it, and when I released it, I let all of my energy just fall into the ground and melt the snow. And it got really quiet. I'd love for you to practice that as you go through the day, allowing yourself a moment to drop back into who you were before you got involved with those thoughts, got yourself on. So all day long, we go from open, unattached, at ease, calm, clear, to busy, set up, processing. Some of you live here. I used to spend a lot of time here awake and then when I was sleeping. And we want to help ourselves as we go through the day, notice and come to a moment where we're going to just come back into what I would call receiving mode. I'm receiving sound. I'm receiving smell. I'm using my senses to take the moment in and let myself be awake and resting now. That's a really important thing. It's what helps you reset out of the moment when you might get a warning code. So just try that on. See if that helps. So the image I have is that I'm plugged in most of the time, and I'm doing my thing, and I'm rocking in it, having good energy, and I'm responding to problems, and I have clarity, I'm working. And then if something will happen, and I'll get startled or upset, or my ego will trigger, and I'll have a reaction, and I'll pull that plug out. And I'm like, I think it's the circumstances. But really, those circumstances were like that before, and they were like, maybe like that again. But what's the difference is I'm not plugged in. I notice that I'm not plugged in. I can plug in and come into the present moment. Where I remember the phrase 1855, which is there to remind us that this institution has been here a long time. It survived before I was here on the planet, before I worked here. It will survive after. So I probably want to take care of myself and keep it in perspective. That's plugged in Lisa. I have some trainings tomorrow that I'm doing for folks in the administration building because it feels like that would be smart to help you put in the epicenter of stress. And there's a lot of moments where I feel really good about it, I'm excited about it, I have clarity about how I want it to go. And then there's another moment where I'm like, who do I think I am? What did this post badly? What did I do harm? I don't want to create anything from there. And I also don't want to stay there all night because I'm not going to have a good program tomorrow if I stay there all night. First of all, I'll be exhausted. And second of all, or maybe first of all, I won't have good content and I'll be exhausted. If I plug in, I'm going to come to exactly what I need to do tomorrow and then I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to go on vacation. Where I'm going to really plug in because even me, who is about trying to help people through this, I need to go have rested. We have to have good self-care because this isn't going to go away in a red hot minute. You know, we've got controversial speakers coming to campus, we've got investigations and trials, and we've got search committees, and we've got interim this, and what's happening with that, and the new person coming here, and all of that changes everything. So we're in it for the long haul, and we need to have really good self-care. So here are some strategies that I just want to talk to you about. It is okay. You are an awesome MSU employee, even if you lower the frequency, intensity, and duration of contact with the stressor. You don't have to be in it 24/7. You can choose a couple of times a day. So lean in, gather information, and then kind of pull back and take care of yourself. Over time, we're having acute stress right now. Over time, it will dissipate because the frequency, intensity, and duration of upset will also start to subside. But even when it's big, you don't have to have your head in it all the time. It's not going to help your balance. It's not going to help your connection with donors. It's not going to help you be present with your kids because you don't want to like miss this whole chapter with your kids because you're up in your head about what's happening next year. You can be a high quality employee and take a rest from it. Unplug. We know that from social media and from politics and from what's going on in the world anyway. It does not mean you don't care or you're betraying a cause to take a break. It's essential that you do. We need sustainable activism. We need sustainable pressure on an institution to change its culture. We don't need a bunch of sparklers that are like hot right now and burn out tomorrow. We certainly need embers of solid MSU connection as we continue to raise donations to support the institution. Super important self-care is to remember the temporary nature of your personal experience. You're creating it from the inside out. The situation's happening, and right now I'm having this reaction. When I have a different thought about it, I'm going to have a different experience. Or maybe I'll have a thought about something totally different, and I won't have that experience at all. When I come back to it, I'm going to have that experience again. You're creating it from the inside out. You're having a thought, it's being brought to life through your consciousness, and physiologically your body's bringing your thoughts to life. You're creating your experience from the inside out. The circumstances aren't creating your stress. But we don't know that so much because our language betrays that she's pushing my buttons, he's on my last nerve, or they're driving me crazy. We think the circumstances, like when these things get resolved, then I can calm down. And I'm here to tell you that life is better when you have things going on and you're calm in it. And understanding the temporary nature helps you free yourself from feeling like you have to be upset because this is happening. I want you to increase your movement. And if you have a regular gym plan, maintaining that is a good idea. But I'm talking about throughout the day, you want bursts of movement that increase your heart rate, and because it's energy. Emotional stress is energetic. It shows up in our physiological body. We want to shake it out. There's a song by Florence and the Machine, Shake It Out, Shake It Out. The devil off your head. But that's your experience. You're holding it. You want to shake it out. When animals are threatened, like when a gazelle just barely escapes being eaten by a lion or a tiger, it goes off and it shakes really hard. It releases the held energy, which I think when the kinesiology part will agree with me about. Are you releasing your energy? Laughter can do that, humor can do that. Like laughter yoga is really about even fake laughing. Physiologically, your body doesn't know you're fake laughing, and so it is a release of tension. Sex and connecting with loved ones in that way also releases tension. Healthy healthy contact is a good thing. Increasing your heart rate and the frequency of having your heart rate increase. So just parking your car farther and walking in quickly, that's good. And I would add to that because you could be on a treadmill, you could be still on a treadmill, like you'd be doing double treadmill. You're walking on a treadmill, but you're still on the treadmill you want. You want to like let yourself have that movement time, be free of incoming processing, because otherwise you can't get rid of it as much as you make it. So you want to just be on one treadmill. You're on the treadmill and you're like letting yourself really be about your legs, your muscles. You're not about your future and your job, right? You want to be on the treadmill. You want to be on the treadmill. And that will actually help you start to have some physiological relief, which should help with tension, headache, jaw, muscle, back, helping yourself be more relaxed. It'll help you sleep better. It's all connected. Try to limit alcohol, caffeine, and non-prescription drugs. I do include marijuana with that. Some folks say that marijuana helps you not think about stuff. Marijuana can also like help you not feel like you want to do anything. And what's important right now is to balance self-care with value-guided action. Self-care, value-guided action. So anything that you're doing that provides some comfort and relief is a good thing. Where it gets to be a problem is where that behavior starts to make you not have value-guided action. Sleep is a good thing. If you're sleeping so much, you're not coming to work, or you're not tending to your relationships, it's not so good. Riding a bike can be a good thing. But I know somebody that was riding their bike like 10 or 12 miles a night. They'd come home, they'd go ride it out, but they weren't connecting with their kids. So but that biking was more numbing than it was comfort, because it ended up being a problem in terms of like being lined up with yourself. So you're numbing, but then you're done the shame because you're not with the kid, and it kind of continues passing. One idea for self-care is to like place it in a container. So if you have stuff you need to talk about your day with your partner or a friend or whatever, and you're going to go spend time with them, you don't want the whole night to be about that. Same thing when you're sharing with coworkers. You don't want every interaction you have with your coworkers to be this person's insecure and this person's insecure, and now we're like this all day long. You're going to drain the heck out of yourself. So if you're having lunch with a coworker, you might say, how about we, for the next 15 minutes, talk about what's happening on campus. And then for the rest of the time, I'd really like to know how you are in the world outside. And so can we just like, my girlfriend has a basket in her house, and she might say, hey, how long do you need to talk about that issue or problem? And I would say, I need like 25 minutes to kind of tell you some things. Like, cool, we agree on that. And then at the end of that time, I kind of like mentally just put it in the basket, and then we watch a movie, or we have dinner, and we actually are present with each other. You can put it in a container just with yourself, and then let yourself read a book. Or you can put it in a container in order to have a connection with somebody else, to not miss the choir concert that you're at, or to not be with the child that you're rocking. I have a granddaughter, so I don't have that going on, that desire to do that. Allow yourself to come off high alert. You have to notice that you're on high alert and know that it's a good idea to come off. And so some self-soothing gestures, some comfort gestures can help you. It's almost like, a dog that's startled by the thunder. You want to pick her up and come here. So you want to strengthen your relaxation response. I was talking with folks earlier today, and one of the things that I would note is that we don't have a contrast. When we're really stressed, it feels like we're stressed all the time. And then there's no indicator that we're stressed, so we don't know to come off high alert. We don't want to help ourselves because we don't know we're up there. One of the ways you start to notice the difference is to really pay attention to who you are and how you feel when you're relaxed. And as you spend more time doing something like guided imagery or meditation or whatever you do that helps you come to a psychological resting place, resting in your health and well-being, your well-being, like who you are when you don't have a thought in your mind, your resting place. Spending more time there starts to help you notice when you come out of it. Like, how do you look, feel, sound? What language do you use when you're resting and you're centered and grounded and you're open and aware? And then how do you look, feel, sound? What language do you use when you're overwhelmed or reactive or upset? If you notice the contrast, and you believe that this wise, centered, grounded self does better work, is a better parent, is a better friend, is a better everything, it'll help you start to shift your attention. I also want you to practice informal mindfulness. So instead of resisting and resenting that you have to do the dishes, I have some dishes at home I have to do. If I go to home tonight and I'm like, oh, I want to do these dishes, I have to do that, I'm going to miss the opportunity to be both productive and rest. And so if I let myself bring all of my attention to the sensory experience of washing these dishes, I would pick up a dish, I would be about the water and the smell and the suds, I would notice it go from dirty to clean. While that's, I'm inviting myself to relax, I'm taking the position of a relaxed person for the dishes, I'm putting the dish down, I'm getting the next dish. I have a pleasant experience of relaxation, and the dishes go from dirty to clean. If you're going to do the dishes anyway, it helps for you to do the dishes on energy saver mode. One time I was really frustrated with my boys who were supposed to do the dishes before they went to bed, and they didn't. I came home late, and they were there, and first I was going to just not do them, but then I needed to do them. I was kind of upset about doing dishes. And then I noticed it, and I said to myself, are you going to do the dishes? Yes, because you need to use this small kitchen. So now I'm choosing to do the dishes. Now I get to choose how I'm going to do the dishes. And I entered into this informal mindfulness with the dishes. I did the dishes. I didn't have time to meditate, but I could do the dishes meditatively. And so I was doing the dishes in that way. I calmed down, I opened up, and while I was doing that, I got curious about how to talk to them about the fact that they're leaving the dishes for me to do. And while I was wondering about that, I heard myself say, it's not like they don't know, like, that they should do the dishes. I feel like if you know that you shouldn't be speeding, you speed, there's consequences. And as soon as I heard myself say speeding, I thought of like posted speed limits. And then I thought, they knew they were supposed to, this was a posted chore. And I thought, speeding violation, chore violation. And I dried off my hands and I went over and opened my laptop and I got into their actually for the credit union accounts, and they transferred $10 each from their account to my account. And I noted it, chore violation, mom had to do the dishes. And then I shut it down and I went to bed. And the next morning I said to them, hey, something strange happened to your credit union account, you might want to check that. And at first they had a reaction and I'm like, hey, did you not know you needed to do that? Yes, you did. Okay, so that's the consequence. And if you don't do what you know you need to do, that'll happen again. And I think you're going to have a nice lunch today. So my point about that is I went from upset and just upset, and spending a lot of energy, not wanting to do. I might not even have done it, but I wouldn't have done anything else. So I would have been productive. And from that to calm, clear, dishes are done. I had an insight that was actually pretty wise parenting. A lot of people told me that they were going to borrow that. Like, I'm not going to argue with you. You just get a ticket. You get a short ticket. Wisdom. So acknowledge. I have to do the dishes I don't want to do. Acknowledge, honor it, release it, relax into my health and well-being, dropping my resistance to resentment, reflecting on how I want to do the dishes, resolving to do them that way, and then this amazing. All with less energy spent. You can do the dishes, or you can do the dishes. Not do the dishes. I also think it's really helpful for you all to have a touchstone group. Some people have a touchstone group as part of their work team. I'm not talking about people who get together to gossip and gripe and like maker it. I'm talking about who do you meet that helps bring you back to center. Are there people in your family that do that for you? Do you have a circle of friends that you go talk to? This is really important to have a touchstone group. You need to be able to honor and acknowledge what you're feeling and be heard and express that. And so if you have a group where you come and do that, it can really help you feel heard. And empathy heals anger, empathy heals shame, just that connection, right? And so I have people that are in my connection network about being a single mom. I have people who are in a different connection network that I might talk about being a gender non-conforming woman who loves a woman and lives in America. And they're not all the same, different people in different networks. And then I might have a connection network right now I do of people who do service work at MSU and talking about how it feels. Do you have a touchstone group? Sometimes book clubs aren't really about the books, they're about the touchstone quality. Is this a group of people I could meet with and be real with? So you don't have one of those, that could be really helpful. And then you want to practice self-compassion, which is those 4 steps of empathy that you're actually stepping into a state of service with yourself. So the first thing you have to do is stay out of judgment with yourself, which most of us are really bad at. If we ask ourselves what kind of an inner supervisor we have, most of us would agree that our inner supervisor is pretty harsh and shaming and critical and judgmental. We don't notice it because they're in our head all the time. We might be able to see that about our actual supervisor when we put them on that continuum. But what about the one in our head? And you're the one that has to listen to that supervisor. So the more you're able to stay out of judgment, figure out why you're feeling what you're feeling, notice what you're feeling, and just care about it. Give yourself some care so you're feeling hurt, like you're struggling, you're having a moment of suffering. This would be a self-compassion mantra. I'm having a hard time. All people have a hard time sometime. How can I be most loving and effective with myself? That's the work of Kristen Neff. If you Google Kristen Neff and self-compassion, you can take a self-compassion assessment on her website. I'll be teaching a mindful self-compassion class in April. That's one of the ways, if something rings your bell here, you can follow up with more education down the road. Practice gratitude. So it's hard to give your attention to what feels expansive and open and abundant and still maintain your stress, frustration, and upset. This is just for a shift to occur. It's not like don't worry, be happy, do nothing. It's be able to shift and release and then return back to careful consideration of the issue at hand. We want to stop, rock, reflect, and roll. Whenever we're psychologically on fire, stop, drop, and roll. But we want to after we notice that we're spinning, we want to help ourselves come back to center. And then reflect on our values and then bring that forward.
This is Shelby. Good night.
The folks at Omaha Health Center are saying good night to us. Some people are feeling that sound. Just a couple of things I want to say about resilience. I love this definition. Resilience is a capacity of a system, enterprise, or person to maintain its core purpose and integrity in the face of dramatic change or challenging circumstances. We need to be clear about our core purpose, which is really our values, what are we going to be about. This is a great time here at Michigan State for us to be really clarifying that. And I'm hoping that there's community conversations around what do we really want to be known for. If we don't really care about reputation, then what do we care about? How can we, or if our reputation has been, damaged? What's our values? What's our purpose? So resilience is being clear about your values, and integrity is acting in alignment with those. And so when you're able to be clear about your values and act in alignment, you tend to be more resilient. Because if you have clarity about what you want to do for your kids, and then you have maybe a financial upset that throws you. An example would be that my wisdom told me that it would be helpful for my daughter to go to a different school for high school. And that her needs better, and it also cost a fortune. But I was willing to do that hard thing because it felt value guided on her behalf. And so there was lots of times during those 4 years where I kind of didn't have enough money. I had charged toilet paper, for example. And what helped me maintain my balance about that was experiencing the pain of that. I would acknowledge the upset of it and the unfairness of it and the emotions of it. And then I would honor that and release it. And then I would relax, reflect on my values, and get pretty clear pretty quick that I was going to keep working as hard as I was working because it was in her best interest to stay. So resilience is a structure that takes us from upset and overwhelmed to value-guided behavior. It shows up in our thought process, it shows up in the emotional release and clarity, and it shows up in our physical status. I'm overwhelmed, I'm upset, I'm ready to go. That's great. Right? I love that definition. It's one of my favorite definitions of resilience. Also, we talk about resilience as about the capacity to bounce back, to like from misfortune, disruptive change, and failure. Okay, so we need resilience. We need to bring it, but I don't even want to just bounce back. I want to bounce forward. And again, with a direction that's about, okay, we had our face down in the arena moment. How can we rise up and move forward in a way that we can be proud of? Rising Strong is a book written by Brene Brown. She wrote Daring Greatly and then Rising Strong. Those are really helpful. They would be helpful if we had one book, one community. I would say, hey, let's read Daring Greatly and Rising Strong, because they both have things to learn about how you can move forward in this time and how the institution can. And that work is about being able to navigate the emotion of shame in a way that allows us to be inspired rather than shut down. So we're going to have failure moments. We're having a failure moment. And so the true nature of our character is going to be determined by how we get up, how we dust off, and how we move forward. Being clear about who we want to be helps us do that. I like this definition because it talks about buoyancy. It talks about, I think it is water. My friend Elliot talks about feeling like resiliency is like, oh, she can just lean back and float. Sometimes we need to be resting while not knowing what's coming next. Yeah, so this resiliency definition sort of speaks to that ability for us to rest in the not yet known in a way that's calm. And from that place, while we're resting in our buoyant energy, our innate health and well-being, new ideas can come to us. If we're like running around in the lake trying to find the big job, we're kicking up all the silt and we can't see. If we rest and float long enough for things to settle, we might see what we need. It's about the efforting versus non-efforting and then looking for a new idea. That's what this definition kind of speaks. Resiliency is the speed and strength of our response to adversity. And that doesn't mean speed right through the emotions. Really, that's going to do us such harm. But for me, when something goes on and goes wrong, when it happens, the clearer I am about my values, the quicker that whole process happens. So I like this because it talks about the speed and the strength. This one I like because it's got the both and in it. Resiliency does come up and through me. My connection to a power greater than myself, however I think about that, I'm connected to that. Just like the hose is connected to the spigot, we're connected to the energy of life. Nobody can unlock that from me. That's mine. You can't take it. No matter what you think or say or do to me, while I'm alive, I'm connected to that energy. Resilience is that connection with that energy. That's deep within me. That's mine. And it also comes from support around us. As we all connect to that energy, the flow for each of us individually is stronger. I like that whole thing. It comes from gratitude for what's good in our life and also from leaning into the stuff. Like, we're not afraid to lean in. Cheryl Sandberg, who wrote this quote on the grant, we're not afraid to lean in. And the reason why we're not afraid to lean in is because we can process the emotions that happen when we lean into the stuff. Again, that's a new kind of strong, right? So important. I'm going to skip this one for now because I'm noticing time, and we'll come back to that later. One of the things I want you to notice is when you're having a hard time to just, like, the circumstances are happening, like you're about to go into a staff meeting. As you're about to go into a staff meeting, or you're about to call that donor, that potential donor, you want to do an emotional wellness check-in. You want to, like, sort of say, okay, as I'm about to do this, let me just check in on the stuff about my experience that was really about me. Am I hungry? Is my blood sugar dropped? Have I gone to the bathroom? Am I relaxed and calm? Is there anything I should do to help myself get to a more relaxed and calm state? Am I having a headache or have a reaction? Like, just, I could ask you right now to assess your physical state, and I'm pretty sure we can do it. Similarly, I could say, what kind of a mood are you in right now? If I had a mood elevator with different moods on it, from low to medium or steady and to inspired, could you go and move a marker and let me know where on the mood elevator you are? Why that's important is when your mood is low, when you're in a low mood, everything becomes more tunnel vision, your thinking speeds up, it tends to be more negative, it tends to be more problem focused, things look hopeless, You don't have as much confidence. Things just get narrow. The same situation happening if you get in that mood elevator and go up to kind of a little more than stable or expired, that same situation, person, or circumstance is going to look totally different to you. What just had a scarcity orientation now might have a more abundant one. Before you had little perspective, it was like being in the basement where you can't see and it's dank, to like being on the top of a skyscraper, you have perspective and vision. You're more solution oriented. Your thoughts are slower and clearer. They tend to be more positive. They tend to be fresher. When you're in a low mood, you kind of just go with the same thought you ever had, and they tend to be shame-based and unhelpful. You got to know what you need. State of mind is really the velocity of your thought world. That kind of goes from like, if I had a jar of sand and water, and it's clear right now, that would be clear mind. Like, I have the thoughts, is the sand, but they're settled. I'm not occupied with it right now. And then when you start having thoughts and start having thoughts about that, it's like shaking that jar, and it instantly gets muddy. You want to know if you're busy-minded or quiet-minded. Are you in mud mind or are you in clear mind? Is your mind clear and are you open and flowing with new ideas, or are you spinning around and upset and ruminating about stress? It's so important for you to do that check-in and know that. And then the last one is your rule book. Like today I was over here trying to take, this is the third time I've tried to take this seminar. I'm hoping this one works. But when I ended up being late going where I was going, so I hadn't eaten. I was in a pretty good mood. My mind was busy because I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about being late, I'm thinking about the session I'm doing tomorrow, and caring about people, and I'm going on vacation, and I've got stuff to do. So I was a little busy-minded, hadn't eaten, hadn't gone to the bathroom, but the rule was like, oh my God, you're gonna be late, that's terrible, you can't be late. So when I noticed myself, I just let myself just stop for a second, and I just went, okay, you have to go to the bathroom, then I have to go, no, I don't. Okay, so you're gonna go, you're gonna be late, it's gonna have to be what it is. Even though you prefer not to, it's gonna happen because you're trying to do a lot with a little time. So just while you're driving over there, think about how you want to show up, do the best you can. I got there, I wasn't that late, I was a little bit scared, still a little busy, but as I started to get ready, I was like, this is what it is, you know, that it is what it is, who do I want to be and how do I want to show up right now. And then that happened, and we had a good session. So you always want to check in on this emotion. If you come to me and say, what's going on with me emotionally, I can do a checkup. But it's really helpful for you as you're going through your day to check in. That's a really important thing. I've already said this one, but just to remind you, when you're psychologically on fire, that's your state of mind, and your mood all just going, you're not too far away from a shift. You can't control your thinking. If you try to stop the thinking, you're going to get worse. But if you just sort of notice that you're illuminating and giving all your attention to this, as you give your attention to something else, that can't go on without you. You're the thinker. As you put your energy to something else, it'll fade, and now you're clear. And then please do roll forward with value-guided behavior. You're the creator and shaper of your own life. We collectively are the shapers of the next chapter of our institution's history. Stop, drop, reflect, roll. Catch and release is when you notice that you're caught up in a thought. It may just be your first thought through. Your first thought through is often not your best thought, particularly if you're in a low mood. But just be noticing that you don't necessarily have to go. You're allowed to question, is that first thought, which is usually habitual, is that really what serves me? And if it doesn't, I'm going to let go. Psychological flexibility is a skill that you can develop, just like you can develop empathy, you can develop resilience. It's not like you're either resilient or you're not having a life. We now know there are skills that can increase your level of resilience. We also know that there's skills that can take you from being psychologically rigid, which means you make a plan, you're attached to the plan, you're rigid with the plan, don't mess with my plan. Hey, you, get off of my plan. I'm going to be intense if you mess up with my plan. Or I'm okay, I'm not okay if I don't know what's going on, if I don't know what's going on. Right? It can teach you how to go from that anxiety-inducing mindset to one where you're able to be more able, more often, to be in the present moment, open up, and do what matters. We need psychologically flexible and resilient employees to take us forward. We need psychologically flexible and resilient leaders to help us get quiet and make choices. Already I can see people in busy-mindedness and with rigidity working at cross purposes. I can do that too when I get caught up and get attached to my work and my ego. I want to be able to notice that because that doesn't serve the institution as well as I do when I'm flexible. Psychological flexibility is being mindful of the moment, connected to your values, and taking action. That's the same thing. It's like not needing to have it all planned out. That when you have more psychological flexibility, you're more able to rest in the not known of something and let something unfold in a wiser way. When you're psychologically flexible, you have more respect for new ideas rather than only accessing the ideas you already know. We need psychologically flexible development specialists to have new conversations with people. Resisting is something that gets in the way of our flexibility. When we're resisting what is, resisting or resenting, we get really caught up. It blocks the flow of new ideas. If you don't notice you're resisting and resenting, you can't shift away from it. You can't shift away from it. You can't be value guided in response. So we try to avoid unwanted personal experiences, and we try to control everything so as to avoid a future unwanted personal experience, when really unwanted personal experiences happen sometimes, particularly if it's already happening. Resisting an unwanted personal experience that's already happening makes no sense whatsoever. It's better to drop our resistance and move forward. So the 2-sentence summary of acceptance commitment theory, which if you're interested in this and it's ringing your bell, you want to go to the MSU main webpage. In the search box, you want to type in the word toolbox, and it'll take you to a page on the Help You website where there's 7, soon to be 8 videos teaching the skills of psychological flexibility, complete with an assessment that you do at the start, and then it kind of takes you through all of that learning. Please check that out if you're interested. But in summary, it is what it is, which by itself, I'm going to make my picture bigger. It's like, it's not that helpful. You're like, well, anyway, it is what it is. Right? But if you sort of say, it is what it is. Given that it is what it is, who do I want to be? How do I want to respond? How do I want to move forward? What do I want to be about? That's where the big money is in terms of like actually bouncing back and rising through a situation in a way you can feel good about. Regardless, what's cool about this is the skill set you would get by watching those videos and doing the learning and maybe having a conversation or two with somebody are equally applicable in all areas of your life. These are some of the most simple yet profound things I've ever learned. And I went from being a very rigid, upset, anxious, emotionally reactive person to being pretty steady most of the time, even when I have a bummer happen, like last night when I recorded this video plus another one and found out neither of them recorded properly. That was a bummer, and I recovered. And then I did it again earlier today, and there was an error code failure when I tried to convert it to Zoom. And hopefully this one works. Hopefully you hear me say that. I'll have another hard moment in a minute if it doesn't, and yet I still know that if it doesn't in a minute, then it is what it is. And I already earlier today said that if this doesn't work tonight, February 15th, then my next plan is to tell Vivienne that people can just zoom in to the one I'm doing tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and we'll just do it live to the best of my ability. I hope that doesn't happen because I think this is a pretty good content so far, but if it does, my wisdom and resiliency will be there for me. I can always count on a new idea. You want to anchor yourself in your core values. That's like, if you can't use your GPS if you don't put coordinates in. So my values about things like help me stay steady on the course. It helps me notice when I'm off course, like the rubber strips on the highway, and it helps me come back to those. My value guided statement every day has been for a while. Back a while ago, I had a hard moment in my MSU career. I actually got demoted. Actually, what happened was they flattened the administrative structure of our program, reducing one coordinator position for non-budgetary reasons, and it was mine. It was actually my 11-year-old that night that acknowledged and honored the fact. He was, oh, you got demoted. I was like, well, yeah, buddy, I guess that's what happened. Never thought my name and that word would be in the same sentence. So as you can imagine, I had a really hard time for a while, and I think I was supposed to leave, but I didn't. In part because I have 3 kids to feed, and my values for that made me stay. But I realized about a month and a half, 2 months, maybe a little longer later, that I was still actively upset about it all, angry about it all. And every day that was coming in to work. And I remember standing in my office just down the hall, and I was looking out the window, and this hit me that I'm still willingly accepting a contract to work here. None of us have to work for Michigan State University. We choose to work here. We are still choosing to work here. And so in that mind, I said to myself that day in my mind, so if you're going to choose to work here, you have to decide what that's going to be about for you. And I've been reading a book by a guy named Russ Harris that talked about when it's called the reality slap. When life slaps you across the face so hard, you got cartoon stars above your head. How do you anchor yourself? This is the book I also think could be a good one community book to read. And he said if you don't have time or you're not capable right now because you're so upset about figuring out your values, you should think of these 3 words because most of the value statements we collected from people all the time can be sorted into 3 categories. And we can label them caring, contribution, and connection. And who I am, I was like, oh, those fit. Because that's, if I could come to work every day and be about caring and contribution and connection, it would be a meaningful experience, even though I have a hard time with some things that weren't cool happened to me that I don't think were fair. But it gave me a way to anchor and orient. Every day, when I walk past this beautiful set of bricks and mortar called Beaumont Tower, which I see as kind of like a tower, the antenna part on the top there. I kind of see it as like I can send my good energy out to all of you. I do it every day, anybody who's connected to you. I come in, I take a deep breath, and I bring that, and then I ask myself, let me be about caring and contribution and connection. Let me be about the people, not about the people. Let me be about this greater, bigger good than about my own ego or my own upset. And then I come into work, and I'm more able more often to spend my day that way, which means I'm earning my living, doing something meaningful in a way that saves me energy. That's pretty cool. And I think that I'm going to leave it there for tonight. There's other things we could say. We're going to have unfinished conversations. We'll come back. I hope it's been a little helpful to you to just be present. If you've recognized you haven't been present, maybe listen again. Listen while you're on elliptical. There's a skill structure. Actually, I do want to show one more. Okay. So here's some questions to ask yourself. How do you want to show up and be seen and live brave in your role as an editor employee? What permission do you need to give yourself to begin to show up that way? What core values will guide you as you live and work the daring way? That's from Bernie Brown's work, Daring Greatly and Rising Strong, and her newest book, Breaking the Wilderness. Spartan Experience, I would say, like we go to Spartan Experience trainings and we talk about the cultural, these are the values, and this is how we'd like you to deliver this Spartan Experience. I also want you to have an inner Spartan Experience. I want you to be thinking about what it means for you to bring energy to your work in a way that you can feel really good about. That's yours. You own that no matter what's going on in your work team or culture. You bring that every day. And sometimes we don't want to bring our good stuff because we're mad at them. But being mad at them and being like this all day is like drinking poison and expecting somebody else to die. Right? Not a good idea. We want to be connected to our best self, do a hard thing. You do you every day the best you can. That's my recommendation there. And then I'm leaving you with this set of words that to me are the structure that can take you from any upset into grounded, value-guided behavior. So you can't skip the first 3. You have to acknowledge what's happening. It is what it is. Acknowledge it, honor it, which means making space for all the feelings associated. And then be willing to release it. You're the only one who can. Nobody can take it from you. You're willing to release it so that you can relax into your health, reflect on your values, and resolve to take good action. to see it as like I always see it like Tai Chi, like it's the movement of energy. I go from an upset, stuck moment or broken heart moment to honor, acknowledge, release, relax, reflect, resolve. I'd love you to hang out with those, see how they're working. If you have an insight or a comment about those 6 words and how they've impacted you, feel free to shoot me an email. My email again is Laughlin, LAUGHMAN @msu.edu. And it is a pleasure to be with you tonight. And with great hope, I hope you hear me say that. Take care.